I always thought Lisa and I were unbreakable. We had been together for years, growing side by side, supporting each other through thick and thin. I worked hard long hours, late nights, but it was all for us. For the future we dreamed of. A house, maybe kids someday, stability, happiness. Lisa used to say she admired my ambition. She loved that I was building something real, but lately, something had changed. At first, it was subtle. Offhand comments about expensive vacations her friends were taking. Jokes about how we should be driving something nicer, living somewhere better. I brushed it off. We were young, there was time for all of that. Then, it got worse. You ever wonder if we're settling? She asked one night, twirling the stem of her wine glass between her fingers. I frowned. Settling. We have a good life, Lisa. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. Yeah. But don't you ever think about what else is out there? I should have seen it then, the way she was pulling away. The way her phone lit up late at night. The way she seemed distracted when we were together. But I told myself it was nothing. Lisa loved me. That was all that mattered. Until the night she didn't come home. At first, I thought something had happened to her. I called, texted, no answer. Hours passed. Then, just as panic started to set in, my phone buzzed. Lisa, we need to talk. My stomach dropped. When she finally showed up, she didn't even look guilty. Just distant, cold. I didn't want to do it like this, she said, crossing her arms. Do what? My voice was barely a whisper. She sighed like this was hard for her. Jake. I met someone. The words knocked the air from my lungs. What? He's different. He has his life together. He can give me things I never even thought about before. I stared at her, my mind scrambling to make sense of what she was saying. Lisa, we have a life together. Or did that not mean anything? She hesitated. And in that hesitation, I had my answer. I didn't know who this guy was, only that he was rich. And that Lisa had decided a life of luxury was worth more than years of love. Then, just like that, she was gone. The first few weeks were hell. Lisa was gone, and with her, everything I thought we had built together. I barely ate, barely slept. My mind replayed our last conversation on a loop, tormenting me with every word, every hesitation in her voice. She hadn't just left me, she had traded up. My friends tried to help. They told me I deserved better, that she wasn't worth my pain. But their words felt empty. How could they understand? Lisa hadn't just walked away, she had made a choice. And she had chosen him. The worst part? I didn't even have to wonder how she was doing. Social media made sure of that. Pictures of her draped in designer clothes, sipping cocktails on yachts, standing beside him, a man with a perfect smile, a tailored suit, and a bank account that made mine look like pocket change. She looked radiant, like she had never been happier. Like I had never even existed. That should have broken me, and for a while, it did. But then something changed. One night, as I stared at my reflection, tired eyes, slumped shoulders, the shell of the man I used to be, I realized I had a choice. I could let this destroy me. Or I could use it. So I got to work. I buried myself in my job, taking on new challenges, pushing harder than ever. I hit the gym, forcing my body through grueling workouts, turning my anger into strength. I read books, learn new skills, and set goals I had once thought were too ambitious. Every day, I reminded myself, I was not going to be the man Lisa left behind. I was going to be better. At first, it was just about proving her wrong. Proving to myself that I was worth more than what she had thrown away. But somewhere along the way, the anger faded. The obsession with her disappeared. I wasn't doing this for Lisa anymore. I was doing it for me. And that's when I realized losing Lisa wasn't the worst thing that had happened to me. It was the best. Time didn't just heal me, it transformed me. The man Lisa left behind was gone. In his place stood someone stronger, sharper, and more focused than ever. I had built a life on my own terms, and I was thriving. My career had skyrocketed, my bank account was no longer something to be embarrassed about, and physically, I was in the best shape of my life. I had dated, of course plenty, actually, but no one ever got too close. Trust wasn't something I handed out freely anymore. I had learned that lesson the hard way. And then, one evening, fate decided it wasn't finished with me yet. I was leaving a high-end restaurant after a business meeting, the kind of place I once thought was out of my league. As I stepped outside, I saw her, Lisa. At first, I almost didn't recognize her. The woman who had once radiated confidence and ambition now looked lost. Her designer clothes were gone, replaced by something much simpler. There were faint lines on her face, her hair slightly unkempt. She wasn't the same woman who had walked out of my life years ago. She saw me, froze. Jake, her voice was softer than I remembered. Hesitant, I could have ignored her. Walked away, let her feel what it was like to be invisible. But curiosity, or maybe something deeper, rooted me to the spot. Lisa, I said, keeping my tone neutral. It's been a while. A flicker of something crossed her face. Regret, maybe. Or shame, yeah. It has. Silence stretched between us. Once, she had held all the power. Now, she seemed unsure of herself, shifting awkwardly as if waiting for permission to speak. How have you been? She finally asked. I let out a slow breath. Good. Really good. And I meant it. She nodded, but there was something in her eyes, a sadness she couldn't quite hide. That's great, and just like that, I knew. Lisa had chosen a life of wealth over love, but wealth had failed her. And now, she was standing in front of me, a ghost of the woman who once thought she had everything. For the first time in years, I felt nothing for her. No anger, no longing, just a quiet understanding. Lisa had left me behind, and now, it was my turn to do the same. Lisa's confident facade cracked the moment I saw her up close. The woman who once walked away from me for a life of luxury now stood before me, worn down by the very dream she had chased. I should have walked away, but curiosity got the best of me. We ended up at a quiet cafe nearby, sitting across from each other like strangers with too much history between them. She stirred her coffee absent-mindedly, avoiding my eyes. It didn't work out, she finally admitted. I said nothing, waiting for her to continue. He lost everything, she whispered. The money, the business, everything. And when things got hard, She let out a bitter laugh, shaking her head. He didn't fight for us. He just let me go. I studied her face, searching for something, guilt, remorse, anything that showed she understood what she had done to me. I guess now I know how it feels, she said quietly, glancing up at me. There it was, a confession wrapped in regret. She reached across the table, her fingers grazing mine. Jake, I made a mistake. I didn't move. I thought I wanted more, but I was wrong. What we had, it was real. It was everything. Her voice was pleading now, her eyes desperate. Do you think we could ever? No. The word came out before I even thought about it. Lisa blinked, as if she hadn't expected me to reject her so easily. As if she thought I had spent these years waiting for her. You left me, Lisa. My voice was steady, controlled. Not just for anyone, but for someone you thought was better. Tears welled in her eyes. I know, and I hate myself for it. For a brief moment, I felt a flicker of something, pity, maybe. A small part of me wanted to comfort her, to tell her it was okay. But it wasn't. Lisa had made her choice years ago. And now, so was I. I stood, tossing some cash on the table. Take care, Lisa. She didn't stop me as I walked away. And for the first time in a long time, I felt truly free. Lisa sat there, her hands wrapped around her coffee cup as if it could somehow warm the cold realization settling inside her. She expected me to hesitate, to want her back, but I didn't. I had already made peace with my past, and Lisa was nothing more than a ghost from it. You really don't feel anything for me anymore? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. I sighed, leaning back in my chair. I used to think about what I'd say to you if this moment ever happened, I admitted. I imagined myself angry, demanding answers. Or maybe laughing in your face, telling you how much better I was doing without you. Lisa flinched, but the truth is. I shook my head. I don't feel anything at all. She looked away, blinking rapidly. Jake, I know I hurt you. I know I made the worst mistake of my life. But can't we? No, Lisa. I cut her off, my voice calm but firm. You didn't just hurt me. You walked away from everything we had because you thought you could do better. And maybe, for a while, you did. But when it all fell apart, you came running back not because you loved me, but because you lost. Her lips parted, but no words came out. You don't miss me. You miss what I used to be. The guy who would have done anything for you. But that guy is gone. I stood up, sliding my chair back with deliberate slowness. I moved on, Lisa. I'm happy. And you? You're just a lesson I had to learn. Lisa's breath hitched, and for the first time, I saw real pain in her eyes. The kind that couldn't be fixed with apologies or second chances. I dropped a few bills on the table and turned to leave. Jake. She called out softly, desperation creeping into her voice. But I didn't turn around. I stepped outside into the cool night air, inhaling deeply. The weight of the past, the anger, the heartbreak, the bitterness was gone. Lisa had thought she held the power, that she could waltz back into my life like nothing had happened. But the sweetest revenge wasn't anger. It wasn't cruelty. It was indifference. And as I walked away, I realized something. For the first time in a long time, I was finally free.